So tell me about, Jay, tell me about that first wholesale deal. I know it was a while ago. Tell me,
it was a mess.
Tell me what you had to go through.
It was a mess because remember, if you're a parent and have kids, you understand what I'm about to say, because I only needed and wanted the next step. That's it. Any more than that, and who knows what would have happened.
Too much, yeah.
So and think about it. So when you turn on the GPS in the car, it doesn't give you it. I mean, it may list out all of the steps, but the audible, what you hear is the next step, because that's the only step that matters, right? Because the steps after that might change depending on what you do next. So I took the next step. What does that look like? I asked people, okay, so if I want to do a wholesale deal, what do I have to do? Okay, you have to go find a seller, someone who's willing to sell you the property. I was like, okay. And then I went to a networking group, and that's what I did. I found a seller. And then I went back to them and said, okay, I found a seller. And they're like, okay, cool. Where's the contract? I'm like, what contract? They're like, well, you got to buy the property. You have to put it under contract. I'm like, oh, well, you didn't say that. So do you have a contract? They're like, yeah, here. I was like, great, cool. Then I went back to her and said, hey, here's the contract. And I just kind of gave it to her. And she's looking at me and I'm looking at her, and she's like, what do you want me to do?
What?
Right. Like, I don't know. They said I needed a contract. And I'm like, okay, never mind. I'll be right back. So I went back to them. I was like, okay, cool. You gave me the contract. What do we do with it? They're like, oh, you need to fill it out. How?
How? Exactly.
What goes where? And because you got to understand, they're looking at me like, is he for real right now? I'm like, yes, I am very for real. Tell what goes where. Oh, okay, got it. Cool. I'll put that there. Great. No problem. And then I go back. All right, cool. Here it is. And they say you're supposed to sign here. You sign there. And then I come back. I'm like, okay, now what? They're like, well, now you need to open escrow. I'm like, cool. What's that?
Right. How do I do that?
How's that? And then so what was really funny, this was one of the times where I said, well, just call my friend. They'll tell you what to do. So cool. I call them. I send the paperwork over. Now you got to understand, I don't know up from down. The only thing I know is that I'm supposed to be putting together all the resources that I need in order to get this deal done and closed and whatnot and find my buyer. Here's what ends up happening. Sorry, it's just funny to say, because there are so many people who like would not do this because they're like, oh my God, I would be so embarrassed. But this is what happened. It's like 2-3 weeks later, escrow lady calls me and goes, okay, we were wondering if you were going to come by and pick up your check. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, the deal's ready to close and we just didn't know what to do with the file anymore. Okay. So what do you want me to do? Well, all you have to do is come by and pick up your check because you have to close escrow. And I'm like, okay. So I hang up the phone and then I go to the people who had been advising me. I was like, she wants me to close the escrow. How do I do that? Because I'm thinking like close a book. It's something physical. I'm supposed to close. Like, can someone give me an escrow so I can close it and get paid?
Right.
Because I don't know what that means. And again, they're just like, I cannot believe that. It's like, and you got a deal? You can see the look in their eyes.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know this, and someone was willing to sell you a house. Yeah. What do I do now? Well, now you need to physically go over there. I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
Just go and get your money, Jay.
I did, but I understand. I didn't know that. Because they just said, keep doing the next step. I needed the next step.
Exactly.
That's all I cared about. The next step, not 12 more steps. Not what do I, and that's how I tend to attack a lot of things. And it works out in my favor.
And
it's
that's what
just in time learning. The marketplace rewards us for that.
And that's what I tell people, especially those novice getting started, is you just have to follow the next step. Like you said, what you said was absolutely perfect for someone getting started. Find out what that next step is and just do it and then come back. But the problem is some people are too embarrassed to ask questions because they feel like, well, this is a stupid question. Well, it's not a stupid question if you don't know what that next step is, you know? So what you did was you was like, you know what? I'm willing to be vulnerable. Whatever it is, I'm willing to do it because I need to eat. My wife needs to eat. My family needs to eat. So it was like, whatever the next step is, I'm going to do it. So, and through that whole process, Now you have that learning curve. Okay, I know the steps. Contract,
Yep.
you know, seller, buyer, contract, escrow, close, pick up the check. So now when it's time to go through this next process, you understand it better and it's a lot easier for you.